Welcome to The Inner Lens, where we look inward not to fix, but to understand. Have you ever felt that moment when everything inside you screams for change? When you're lying awake at 3 a.m., knowing deep down that you're capable of so much more, yet somehow you can't seem to move forward? That's your higher self calling. And neuroscience now shows us exactly why we ignore it. In that pivotal moment, you face two paths: transform into the person you're meant to become, or continue down the familiar road of frustration and unfulfilled potential. But here's what makes this moment so powerful and so terrifying. Your brain is literally rewiring itself in real time, deciding which version of you will win. Most of us experience a surge of motivation after this realization. We make promises, set goals, buy the gym membership. Yet within weeks, sometimes days, we're back to our old patterns. We scroll mindlessly, procrastinate on important tasks, choose comfort over growth, and we wonder, what's wrong with me? The answer isn't what you think. According to recent neuroscience research published in 2025, self-sabotage isn't a character flaw or lack of willpower. It's your brain's preference for predictability over progress. Nietzsche understood this over a century ago, when he observed that people desperately want the fruits of success, confidence, and courage, but refuse to endure the discipline required to obtain them. What's missing isn't desire. It's not even knowledge. What's missing is what the German poet Hölderlin called the sacred fire within, that burning ambition that makes transformation non-negotiable. Without this internal flame, self-evolution remains a fantasy we admire from a distance, but never truly pursue. But let's say you have that fire. You're genuinely ready to put in the work, to face the discomfort, to become who you're meant to be. So why do you still feel stuck? Because there's an invisible force working against you, and it's far more sophisticated than simple laziness. Stephen Pressfield, in his groundbreaking work on creative psychology, named this force resistance. And as of 2025, he's still teaching professionals how to combat it through his Resistance Reset program. He warns that resistance is the single greatest enemy you'll ever face, because it lives inside you. Resistance is the collection of psychological defense mechanisms and behavioral patterns that prevent you from answering your higher calling. It manifests as procrastination when you should be working, as perfectionism when you should be starting, as fear disguised as rational thinking. Recent studies on the neuroscience of self-sabotage reveal that when you move toward uncertain goals, your amygdala interprets novelty as danger, not because it is dangerous, but simply because it's unknown. In that threat state, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term planning and self-control, goes partially offline. Your dopamine system shifts toward immediate rewards: the scroll, the snack, the Netflix episode. This isn't moral failure, it's neurobiology. Here's where ancient wisdom meets modern science. 23 centuries ago, Chinese military strategists compiled their collective knowledge into Sun Tzu's The Art of War. While written for battlefield commanders, its principles apply to any conflict, including the war within ourselves. Sun Tzu taught that to defeat an enemy, you must first study its nature, identify its patterns, and fortify yourself against its tactics. So what are resistance's tactics? First, understand this: resistance is universal. Every successful person you admire battles it daily. Steve Pressfield himself, after decades of best-selling books, admits that self-doubt remains a constant companion. You cannot eliminate resistance permanently, but you can learn to move forward despite its presence. Resistance is protean, it constantly changes form. This is why it's so difficult to combat. Just when you've overcome procrastination, it appears as burnout. When you've conquered fear, it becomes perfectionism. According to Pressfield's 2024 insights, resistance always lies. It presents the opposite of truth, telling you you're not ready when you are, convincing you to wait when you should start now. One of resistance's most destructive forms is projection. When we can't face our internal barriers, we project them outward, blaming our partner, our job, our circumstances, even fate itself, for our mediocrity. A 2025 study on self-sabotage confirms that these projection patterns are rooted in core beliefs formed during childhood, often through criticism, trauma, or emotional inconsistency. Projection doesn't just prevent personal growth, it damages every relationship we have. But the most powerful weapon in resistance's arsenal is fear. Not the healthy fear of actual danger, but what psychologists now call fantasized experiences appearing real. We fear not only what threatens us, but also what represents our highest potential. Abraham Maslow observed this paradox decades ago in his research on self-actualization. We fear our own greatness. We fear what Pressfield calls our true calling, that unique form of productive work that is simultaneously terrifying and thrilling. A 2019 study on Maslow's hierarchy reveals how the culture of fear we live in can paralyze us from pursuing vocational callings, creating inner devastation between our self-image and our daily reality. But here's the game-changing insight. You can use this fear as a compass. The activities that scare you most are often exactly what you should pursue. The projects you're avoiding are precisely the ones that will transform you. Once you've identified your true calling, there's only one strategy that works. Take action every single day. Not perfect action, not comfortable action, just consistent action towards centering your life around meaningful work. Resistance will be there every step. Like the sirens who tried to lure Odysseus off course with enchanting songs, resistance will offer seductive alternatives. Just one more episode, just one more scroll. You can start tomorrow. But just as Odysseus prepared for the sirens by having his crew plug their ears and tying himself to the mast, you can prepare for resistance through environmental design, accountability structures, and daily rituals. The neuroscientific truth that should give you hope. The brain is plastic. These self-sabotage patterns were learned, which means they can be unlearned, not through force, but through awareness, repetition, and self-compassion. Because here's what separates professionals from amateurs in every field: the ability to master resistance day after day, regardless of how you feel. That's the difference between living the life you're capable of and remaining forever trapped in unfulfilled potential. The question isn't whether you'll face resistance. You will. The question is, will you let it define you? Or will you define yourself by how you overcome it? Your answer to that question will determine everything.